Now then, hopefully you enjoyed the Lister 4-cylinder diesel part 1. I had the opportunity to go back there a couple of days ago, and I was asked to do a bit more on this unit, and the sun's just come out, but anyway, we actually got it running in a more reliable fashion, which was great. And there are one or two issues that come up during this video that I think are worth discussing at the end, and any comments would be much appreciated. So watch the video and then see what I have to say. Okay, we're back at this Lister generator, and I've been doing some investigations and cleaning up the labels as well, or the tags. So let's have a look at that first. I think I may have found the problem. So let's just have a look. So here we go. 3-phase. But it doesn't say what volts it is, but it says it's 50 cycles at 1500 revs. The brush plate doesn't say that very much. Brush pressure plate doesn't mean a lot, and we've got total plant weight. So there you go. I've taken off some covers, and in here, let me just get myself sorted. There we go. We've got a connector here which obviously went to some remote starting, and I think therein lies the problem. We're going to have to work out what connections should go to where. On the end here we have a commutator there and brushes, so we're going to have to, let me just get a torch. That's a bit better. We're going to have to clean that up and sort out those connections. And in the side of the generator, hopefully you can see, we've got some slip rings there for the output. We've got the torch in the way now. There we go. Yeah, and then we come round here, and that looks like the main 3-phase output. And there's a plate down here, Lister 1967 3-phase, kVA not filled out. Hopefully you can see all that lot. So annoying that various bits of these aren't filled out, but I think that is the 3-phase output there. And coming round here, that is the DC side, and there's some sort of, I don't know what that is, I'll have to work that out, but it does say on the top, on this plate, turn clockwise to increase setting. So obviously that plate comes off, and on the top of this thing here, there's an adjustment screw. So that must be something to do with governor speed. And this side here, the plate actually said danger mains, so I think that is a 240 volt output. So coming back to everything now, I think the problem is when it was taken out, we got some wires chopped, and we'll need to see which ones fit to where. Right, leave it with me. Okay, that's under that 3-phase. So we've got 3 phases and neutral, and then we've got 2 black wires that go back up to that connector in there. So that would be across 2 phases. So it would be 415 volts. What are we doing with 415 volts up there? It's 415 single phase effectively. So we'll have a look on that connector in there and see whether they actually go anywhere. And if they don't, I think we can safely ignore them for the while. Hopefully. At some point I'm going to have to start this up again and see if we get any voltages anywhere. But I've been turning the engine over with the crank handle and cleaning that slip ring with some wire wool. So I think very soon we'll have a start up. Okay, several interesting things. One, this plate says DC terminals, and when you look inside you think, oh, there they are, I'll put DC to that. Yeah, what could be easier? But then you follow the wires up and they go across and they go straight across that thing, and that goes to what I'm assuming is the governor, and then goes to the rev counter or something like that, one of the instruments. So that would have been a bit of a disaster, wouldn't it? A dead short across 24 volts. So those 2 wires there come down, where are we? There, come down and go along that conduit, and that conduit ends up, zoom out a bit, at that start solenoid. So I think we've avoided a minor catastrophe there. But we have, let me just have a look here, we have 2 black wires there. Okay, let's just see what happens. I think they probably loop over the back and go down the bottom. Yeah, because there are no, oh no, no, there are 2, let me zoom in. There are 2 black wires down the bottom, but there are 2 black wires there. So I'm thinking they may very well go up to this box here and that connector, and that could be the way that this DC generator starts. Just like, you know, on a say a car dynamo system, you've got a control box, and the control box puts power to the field of the dynamo, and then it starts generating. So maybe that's yet another aspect to this thing. Okay, I used to have a 350 matchless, and they had what did they have? They had a piddly little dynamo, chain driven, off the crank in the primary chain case, and the dynamo, really small Lucas dynamo, was in the engine plates. Well, and it was 6 volts, so I couldn't be doing with that, and I actually put a car dynamo off a Morris Minor, belt driven off the end of the crank straight to a regulator box, and there I could run 3 headlights up the front, and it was marvellous. Anyway, that's a bit of a side issue. So I think we need to follow where those wires go, those extra wires there. We need to find out where they go. So I'm going to go with the multimeter between there and that junction box up there. I'll try and keep you informed. So on closer inspection, it's as I originally thought before I went off on a little tangent. There are only two wires. Those black wires, let me just zoom in. Those black wires from that connector loop over the top and down. So that is power straight to the start solenoid. So we'll just put some power into that, be a little bit careful, and start her up, and then see if we can get anything out of the DC generator side. Okay, before we excite this solenoid, that there is the governor control. So there's a piece that comes out of here which is the governor, yeah, and all this lot operates the pump rod which we saw in the last video, and I don't know whether I can zoom in enough. There's the pump rod. You see it's going into the pump behind that bit of guarding there. Goes to a boss there, and it comes along, it's sort of flat, and then ends up with a spring. So that's how that works. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to put power into that solenoid, and hopefully we can video the pump rod, control rod working. There we go. Hopefully we saw that. And it looks like it's held all the way out at the moment, which is great. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to zoom out, and I've already started it just to make sure, but I'll show you a start. Interesting thing, this is back to old technology. We assumed that it was negative earth, though I don't suppose it matters for a starter motor on its own. But then if you look at the earth down there, and then you come up to the dynamo starter itself, the earth is wrapped in red, and what we thought was the live, which is at the back there, is wrapped in black. Tape, that is. So therefore it is positive earth, which all the old cars years ago were, until all the chassis started rotting out through electrolysis. So let's just zoom out and give it a start. I say it's slightly warm, but I've only run it for about a minute. So instead of like last time we had to play with the governor rod, this should go straight up to revs and hold it there. Okay, so we're all ready. We've got fuel in the new improved fuel tank that I'll show you later. We've got the solenoid connection. There we go. Okay, and that is positive. So, camera running. Camera's running. So I've already started this once just to check. So we'll just go contact. So that's grand. And if you notice, we have a new improved peach can fuel tank. Just a peach can with a bit of copper pipe soldered in the bottom. But that's better than it was before. Right, I'm trying to find the connections to the field coils of this DC Exciting generator, and I can't seem to break into any circuit, so let's try it a different way. We've got the meter set on continuity, and let us just... Alright, so something there between 1 and 5, but it's actually showing 1 ohm, something like that. So that's almost a dead short. So what else have we got? Between 2 3 and 4 is 12 ohms. That could be the field coils. Let's see if we've got any other connections. No. So it is 3 and 4. So if I put sort of 12 volts into 3 and 4 with the engine running, we might very well get something on the output. It's what's called making it up as you go along. So I'll just pull some wires out of there and we'll see what happens. What we need to do is start the engine, and then I'll dab those exciter wires to the field coils on the battery and see what happens to the meter. So I'll start it up first, and then of course it'll be too noisy for me to talk to camera, but I'll probably zoom down on the meter and stuff like that. Let's make it up as we go along. Why change a habit of a lifetime? Contact! So as you saw from that, it was rather a patchwork of little video clips. You know what it's like when you're working on something and you're working in somebody else's time. You can't spend forever, and it's not as if I can just go back out into the yard and re-video a clip that's not quite right. When it's done, it's done. So anyway, there are 1 or 2 issues there. One, of course, is the voltage is too high, and in reflection that could be because the revs are too high, or because you know, the field coils need slightly less DC voltage, field coils of the exciting generator, but I don't think so. I think there's a bit in the DC box that we'll need to put DC into, and that I'm feeling, I don't know how it works, but I have a feeling that is to do with the governor. Yeah, so where the black and red and I was going cable connections had been cut off, and where I was going on about it being a dead short, and then I put a note in the video saying, oh, maybe not. I think, I'm not quite sure, I'm not familiar with that sort of technology, but if we put 24 volts into that, then it might pull the revs down. The other thing is, in the office here I've got a an AC cycles meter, yeah, that will measure the cycles of the AC, so therefore we can put that on there, you know, and if it shows say 65 cycles, then we know the engine's going too fast, because I don't know what 1500 revs on one of those engines sounds like. So that's an interesting thing, and if you've got any thoughts on that, that would be wonderful. Moving on, obviously if we get the three-phase output, the correct voltage, then the next thing to do would be to work out how we can recharge the start batteries to keep everything running smoothly, and then there'll be a fuel tank to add, because there is no lift pump on the diesel system, so you would want a high level diesel tank to be able to feed the fuel system with gravity, not with gravity, with diesel, but through gravity. So apart from that, I think we had some success in that brief period where I was able to mess with this big Lister PK generator set. You know, how many times do you get the opportunity to play with something like that? You've got to take it and just say, right, let's, as long as we don't do any harm, that's grand. So I'll leave you with that, and I'd love to hear from you all. Cheers for now.